most powerful person in any room isn't the loudest, it's the calmest. The one that doesn't react, doesn't rush, doesn't need anything from anyone, and everyone in the room can feel it. That's not a personality, that's a trained state. And I'm going to give you the exact tools that I use to hold this state even when I'm under pressure. So you can go into rooms and stop reacting your way out of opportunities and respect from other people. And you can start operating from a place where other people must submit to how calm you are. And there's 8 tools that I'm going to give you. Number 1, anchoring your state. The ones that stay calm under pressure aren't the ones regulating in the moment. They're the ones that set the state before the day starts. Anchoring the state in the morning and at night time, so the calm state is where you live. That's where you operate from. Now there's 2 windows where you're the most suggestible. When you wake up in the morning and when you go to sleep at night time. In this window, your brain is operating in a state called theta. Ultimately, in this state, this is where you can start to reprogram a new subconscious baseline. It's because it's where your subconscious mind is the most suggestible. Well, now how do you do this? Well, you need to make sure that in these windows, you're anchoring the state of being the version of you that already has what you want. The version of you that's confident. The version of you that has the security. The version of you that's calm and regulated. And when you do that in these windows, what starts to happen is you start to create a new subconscious baseline. So it's not something you need to go throughout your day and start consciously reinforcing be calm, be calm, be calm, because this baseline is subconscious. And because your subconscious dictates 95% of your behavior, the actions you take, the way you operate, the way you feel, you're going to create a new baseline that's calm. Now I give my clients a hypnosis track to listen to at night time and a hypnosis track to listen to in the morning. And because a good day starts the night before, they will go into their sleep already anchoring the state of having what they want, being the confident, calm version of themselves. So they wake up in a state that's also regulated. And then they do it again. They do a hypnosis track that allows them to step into the version of them that has the success before they start their day. And what I teach is state first, action second. So intentionally anchoring your state, if done in the right way, you will create a new subconscious baseline. It will be something that you won't even need to put effort in to be. You'll just start being subconsciously. Now that was setting a new baseline. The next tool that I will give you is going to help you regulate in the moment when ultimately, inevitably, life is going to spike your stress levels. And number 2 is the physiological sigh. Andrew Huberman, one of the most world famous neuroscientists, is where I got this from. And it's got to be one of the most powerful and scientifically proven quickest ways to alleviate stress. And what this looks like, it looks like you are taking a big double inhale like this. All the way to the top and then letting go. And science backs this up. I'm not just sitting telling you to double inhale for no reason. This is the quickest way to alleviate anxiety. And if you're going to speak on stage, if you're going onto a sales call, if you're going into a high pressure situation, maybe for you that might be a networking event. Ultimately, it's a very, very good tool that you can use to regulate your state like that. And what we're trying to do here, when I talk about being calm and regulating your state, is to get into a parasympathetic state. And that is one of the quickest proven ways for you to activate that state. And it's a tool that you can use at any time. I want you to think practically. If you think about an example where in nature you could say this happens. Think about a baby when they're crying. They're really stressed out. They're crying, and they do that double inhale. Well, you're just doing this intentionally to completely regulate your state. Science shows it's the quickest way to do it. But breath handles the moment. The next one is going to show you how you can handle pressure and stress all week. And this is number 3, deliberate stress exposure. So I intentionally expose myself to stress. And one of the ways that I do it is to go into a very, very hot sauna. When I'm in this hot sauna, it's roasting hot. And I wait to the point where I genuinely feel like I really need to get out. There's a lot of stress in my body. And in that moment, instead of reacting to the stress, instead of getting out and feeling uncomfortable, because if you go into a hot sauna, you'll see people crumbling. You'll see people getting a bit sweaty and leaving. What I personally do, I use this as an opportunity to expose myself to very high levels of stress. And I observe. I look down at my body and I actually detach. I use this as an opportunity to use my awareness and observe my body and that physiological response of stress. Because this is the same physiological response that's happening when you're reacting to business. When someone around you is bothering you. When something in life triggers you, It's the same stress. It's the same unconscious physiological response. And if you expose yourself deliberately, you can get a lot better at observing that. You can get a lot better at regulating yourself and detaching from that unconscious physiological response instead of feeding it, instead of getting more stressed out. But to build this skill, you need to deliberately expose yourself to stress. And saunas are a really good way to do it. A very hard workout is also a very good way to do it. Cold water therapy, ice cold water, is a very good way to do it. These are deliberately exposing you to stress so you can adapt and develop the skill of regulating, of being calm under pressure. But that trained sense of calm, it needs to live inside a structure. It needs to be consistently done so that you 100% are someone that can deal with stress. Because if you don't use this ability to observe consistently again and again, you're essentially going to lose the ability to observe and completely master your state. And this is creating a consistent system and schedule in your week for you to be doing things that anchor the right state. That teaches you to observe and detach so you can regulate and not be consumed by the stress. The next one is creating a schedule that allows you to maintain the right state. Number 4, schedule your state. Don't just hope for it. Your best state in operating in a very good, positive, regulated state, it can't just be left up to chance. You need to be intentional with scheduling in time to do things that are going to regulate your system. It's going to allow you to consistently stay in the right state, stay in that regulated, positive, calm, relaxed, and focused state. And this is using your calendar simply to schedule in time to do things that help you regulate. This could be going to the gym, like I said, sauna, cold water therapy, going a run, meditation. These kind of things are going to be very essential to be intentionally placed in your week to help you regulate. I personally am pushing my business at the moment, but I have periods of time in my week, whether it's a Tuesday PM, whether it's a Thursday PM. I have periods of time in my week where I will intentionally have nothing to do but to get into a good state. Go to the sauna, go to the gym. Do these things with no intentions around them at all, other than just getting into the right state, other than just regulating. And that regular, intentional period of time where I regulate allows me to consistently, if I get a really busy day done, which can build up a bit of stress, it can lead to a little bit of tension building up, I will then regulate. And then I could build up a bit of stress again and tension, work really hard, and then I regulate. And it allows this consistent flow of regulation, consistent flow of being in the right state, being regulated, being calm. You know yourself. If you're stressed out all the time, if you've done lots of work and you haven't been to the gym, you haven't set a time to really just detach and feel good, you're not going to be able to maintain the state. You're going to be more worked up. You're going to be more reactive instead of right now choosing to be proactive to really make sure that your schedule supports remaining in the right state. Now, number 5 is making the future frictionless. When you plan the day before for tomorrow and you create a scenario where future you is in the present moment without any lack of clarity, they know exactly what they need to do, you know exactly when you're doing it, you have the task laid out, it allows you to just flow. It allows you not to think too much, not to overthink what you're doing, but just do the tasks that you've set out the day before. If you're not making the future frictionless and you're just leaving it up to that version of you in the future, then ultimately it's going to lead to you being more dysregulated. It's going to lead to you actually having to be more reactive. But if you can start to take more of a proactive approach, you can actually think and concern yourself for your future self. How can I make the present moment for them frictionless? How can I create so much clarity that it would actually be harder to be stressed than to be relaxed? That is number 5. The thing that's going to really unlock for your future self and then you in the moment a lot less friction, which ultimately leads to you being a lot more regulated, a lot more calm, and in a position where you're not stressed out. Because ultimately, a lot of the time, what causes stress is when people neglect their future self. Future self-neglect has got to be one of the biggest reasons why people are dysregulated. You've not done the thing you know you should have, so you today is stressed out. But if you're always concerning yourself for future you, and you're able to look back and be grateful for your past self, staying in the right state, being calm, knowing you're the person that's done what they should, allows you to, in the moment, be more confident and just be sure of yourself. Show up as the version of you that has set themselves up for success. That's a real life cheat code to staying in a calm, relaxed, confident state. And that brings me on to tool number 6. being unshakably clear on your vision. When your vision's clear, you don't even need to think too much about the actions you need to take. They just become obvious. A lot of the time, people are unclear on their future. There's this big gap and lack of clarity, and it leads to stress in the moment. Because how you show up today, your identity that you're anchored to, is how you see the future. If I could show you your future so clearly, and you know it's done, you know the success is there, you know every action that you need to take to get there, and it's all laid out ahead of time, that clarity on the vision gives you clarity on who you are today. It gives you certainty in who you're showing up as. And that certainty ultimately is going to lead to regulation. It's going to lead to a positive, regulated, confident state that you can operate in. But when the vision isn't clear, what does that lead to? It leads to a lack of clarity, a lack of confidence. And then your inconsistency with the vision leads to inconsistency in who you're showing up as. The most regulated people are the people that are operating from a solid identity. But without a solid future, a clear vision, you can't operate from that place. So make sure that you've got a clear vision, you're anchored to it, you're connected to it, and you're going to be operating in a state of already having. Already being that calm, confident version of yourself that operates from having the success. When you know you have the success, because the vision's so clear, that it actually feels clearer than even today. You could actually experience the future and the vision just as clear as you've experienced your day-to-day. That is what's going to anchor the state of you already being the version of you that has the success. And the version of you that has the success is calm, regulated, in a state where they're not stressed out because they have everything they want. They don't need anything from anyone. Like I said at the start, the people in the room that don't react, the people that don't flinch, the people that just operate as if they've got everything they need in abundance, they're the guys or girls that are the most powerful, the least reactive, the most influential. And being clear in your vision is going to allow you to anchor the state of being that version of you. And ultimately, the scenario where you have this clarity, if something goes wrong, you're not going to freak out. If something doesn't go to plan, it doesn't bother you because you're so clear in the vision that you know that it's already happened. You know that there's no chance that it hasn't happened because of how clear it is, because of how connected you are to it. So ultimately what you need to do is take time to write down the vision. Write down the vision, create the clarity, and then create a scenario where you can get into a relaxed state and you can visualize it. Visualize it so clearly that you can feel it so strongly that it feels like it's already done. That's the key when you have a clear vision to anchor the right state, is being able to see it clearly with emotion. So make sure that you intentionally do this to regulate your state and operate in a place of already having. Now, number 7, I want to give you another really practical tool that you can use in the moment. Now, one of the quickest ways to regulate your state is movement. I want you to imagine in the moment where you feel negative, maybe you feel low, flat, or anxious. One of the best ways for you to think about this is if you have like a negative net of energy around your body. And what you want to do is break that net of energy. Break it with movement. It could be burpees to failure, press-ups to failure, go a run to failure. What this is going to do is literally going to regulate your nervous system. It's going to change your physiological state, because you know when you don't feel good, when you feel dysregulated, you feel angry, upset, or sad, and someone just tells you to think positively, it doesn't work. But if you do press-ups to failure, you go a run, a hard run, as soon as you feel that negative state, you're going to instantly shift your physiological state. Then you can redirect your focus and start to feel connected to that calm, confident version of yourself. So in the moment, if you feel that you're out of state, move. Press-ups to failure, burpees to failure, go a run. Move and do whatever it takes to break that negative net of energy, because practically moving and then breathing are the quickest ways for you to regulate your state and enter that calm, relaxed state that gives you the control. Because when you're stressed out, you're reactive. When you're stressed out, you don't have control. This is going to be one of the quickest ways for you to regulate your state and access the parasympathetic state that allows you to connect to positive emotions, the love, the peace, the joy, the confidence. One of the quickest ways. And that brings me on to number 8, the most powerful tool out of the 8. And that is living in a state of non-judgment, living with a sense of unity, living in a state where you don't filter through ego. Most of the time, the reason why you react to other people, the reason why your state is thrown off, is because your ego is judging people. If you live in a state of unity, if you understand that if you were that person, you would do the same thing. If you were them, if you had their experiences, if you had their situation, if you had been through what they'd been through, you would act in the same way, you would say the same words, you would think the same thoughts, you would react in the same way, well, then you're going to start understanding people. Instead of you reacting, you're going to be able to take a deep breath, you're going to be able to observe and detach. And when you're in a position to do this, when you're living from a state of unity, where you have compassion for other people, where you're not judging other people, ultimately you become the most powerful person in the room. When you can start to see that person is acting like this because of the way that they were shaped in their childhood, ultimately most people are running on a script that they wrote before they knew they were writing it. Most people are just unhealed children that have trauma they've not dealt with. That is most people that you speak to, most people that you observe. So operating from this level of awareness allows you to not only not react, not only stay calm, but understand who people really are. Give yourself a chance to see the reasons why people are acting like that, which not only positions you to remain calm, but actually positions you to help them, to influence them, whether it's your team, whether it's a family member, whether it's someone on a sales call. Someone on a sales call might be rejecting you. They might be throwing you objections, and you might see a very resistant, annoying person that doesn't want to take action. But if you see a scared child that you need to help guide to make a better decision, understand the reasons so you can say certain things to make them feel good, to make a better decision to buy your thing, that could be the difference in making a sale. Or you have a relationship with your girlfriend, with your mum, with a family member, and instead of you reacting to them, you can take a step back. You can observe the way they're acting. You can observe the fact that that is very likely a childhood program that they haven't discovered yet, an unconscious reaction that they're not aware of, but you're aware of it. You remain calm. You don't react. You're then in a position to influence them, to help them, to stay in a position where you don't need anything from them. You don't need their validation. You don't need their approval. You can stay in a position where you have control. And that's why number 8 is the most powerful. Living from a state of non-judgment. Having an unconditional love for everyone because you understand them. And when you seek to understand, you don't judge. But when you judge, you fail. And when you fail, you react. And that puts you in the worst position possible. And you lose all your power. Now, if you want the state anchor track that I mentioned at the start, just click the link in the bio because I'm giving you that for free. So you can anchor the state every single morning and step into the version of you that's calm, in control, and has the most power. Until the next one, I'll see you soon.